All right, so Fandom Pulse is kind of shown a spotlight onto something that's going on. The books that didn't make it into traditional New York houses are now thriving in the indie spaces. A guest piece by L. Jaggy Lamplighter Wright. It says that the stat about men reading less than women, it might be flipped. Maybe guys aren't buying books because what's on offer doesn't appeal. And this was a big deal a couple of months ago where people were going through Target and showing pictures of, oh, there's no fantasy for men. Well, Target is a female oriented store. Okay, but Amazon isn't necessarily. Amazon is kind of asexual in the way people use it because both genders equally use Amazon. There's no bias towards one or the other. So it's actually really good to look at the data and what's on offer on Amazon and what's actually performing. Um, he kicks off with Kit Sanchez bookstore tour, where the English sections were dominated by romance tinge fantasy. So we talked about this. Then the chatter on X is showing that with women are holding most editorial roles and
Oh, wait, but you skipped. The English section is mostly female focused, but in the other languages, it's far more balanced. And there's far more covers and books by men and for men with covers that are geared towards men. So what's really popular with women right now is topographical books with just really pretty word forms and not a lot of images. And you don't
right
see Conan with his giant sword and his woman on the
cleaving
cover.
a lizard man.
But you do in indie audiobook world. There's a whole world of those kinds of covers that is where all the growth is right now in terms of the market overall. Not that I'm
Right.
saying I support that kind of book, but I have seen those books, and you look at how many ratings and reviews they have on Audible, and it's hundreds, if not thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of ratings and reviews for an author you've never heard of, for a book series you've never heard of, and for a cover that's frankly offensive.
So there's the problem is that when it's the female editorial board and the acquisitions editors who are taking all the books and thinking they know what people want, it's based on past trending evidence, right? You're looking at I hope you're looking at past data to try to figure out what you're supposed to do because you want to follow the trend, you want to follow the momentum. The problem is what Thomas was saying. This gets you to start chasing the soccer ball, and instead of running ahead of the soccer ball to intercept it. JG, I'm sorry, Matthew. I apologize. I will give her $5 next time I meet her. The issue.
Try to keep this family friendly, Jonathan.
Okay. The issue here is that these editorial boards are catering to the female readers, which is normally good, right? Because the romance is a huge part of the market. Okay, there's nothing wrong with actually catering to that. But if you want to reach men and you want to write to men and you want to sell to men and get men to make a conversion decision based on your content, you just have to reformat for men. Don't use data that has been targeted and refined and focused on females, on
And they
women.
need to, and men have to have a seat at the table. If all of the
Right.
editors at a publishing house are all women, and the pub board is all women, and there's like one guy who's the CEO who's like the only man in the organization, which is often how it is. So you have like the one dude who's very busy with CEO stuff, and then he's got a whole army of women working for him. What you're going to end up getting is a very specific kind of book that lacks diversity in terms of total
Right.
offerings. And it's not bad to have that focus actually. I think for a publishing company to accept we make books for women is actually better than trying to make books for everyone. There's a huge room in the market for publishers who figure out how to make books for men and then do that. And then they employ men and they have men at the various decision making roles. Right now, what's happening is that all of that money is going into the indie sphere. And so the pot of money for traditional books is going down and down and down. The pot of money for indie books is going up and up and up because currently none of the big traditional publishers have had any success in or even attempts at success at creating an imprint of dude books for fiction or nonfiction.
Right. Well, even Brandon Sanderson went indie. Like he started his own publishing company. He's putting his books out under his publishing company. And then there was that recent flop with Butcher, Jim Butcher, where he did a series. Like the first cover was Yeah, it was like steampunk flying airships or something, but then the second cover was pink, like magenta pink. And it was just everyone's like, what? And then they showed the third one and it's like back to form because it's like, oh, that was a mistake.
Well, and the second book was also, the whole thing was something affair, and it was all about the romance drama of these various
They thought they were
aristocrats.
gonna pull romantasy readers into Jim Butcher's audience. It's like, guys, you don't read romantasy from a guy named Butcher.
I have purchased so many short story anthologies just to read the Jim Butcher books in those anthologies because I was so desperate for some new Jim Butcher book. And that romance book was just not it. It's like Jim Butcher has the capacity to write one good romance, which he did in the Dresden Files, and he used up all of his good romance points.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
So,
I'm out now.
Moving, so this is just an ongoing trend that we're because it's easy to be focused on kind of the breaking news without looking at the big trends. We try to often take a step back and look at the trends, and this male female dichotomy is a big trend that we're watching in the market, and it's an opportunity for authors because right now women are overserved and men are underserved, relatively speaking, particularly in traditional publishing world. I don't think that men are underserved in indie world. Actually, I think there's actually quite a few books.
Yeah, we've got enough
in indie world.
Yeah,
and these authors who are writing these books for men, some of whom I've had on the podcast, are very quietly making a lot of money, not little money, big money, like generational money. And because they're doing that, they're often quiet about the amount of money that they're making because they don't want to invite competition. They don't want to invite the big publishers to notice.
right.
And because the big publishers don't have access to indie data and they don't seem to pay attention to K-Lytics, they have a big blind spot when it comes to how successful indies are, particularly at targeting men.
When we would run wire security, you look to see where it's quiet. You don't look for where the noise is because the bad guys know how to use noise. They're going to create distractions and they're going to do whatever. So you look to see where it's quiet. Where do they not want you looking? And that's where they are.